So it is officially August 1st, and as different NFL fan bases look at their teams, everybody is generally pretty optimistic right now. I mean, we're getting all kinds of reports from training camp. This guy looks good, that guy looks good. So it's honestly pretty exciting. And I have a word of advice for people. Enjoy the moment. Really enjoy the moment. I know as Jaguar fans, a bunch of us on Twitter is like, oh, it's just training camp. Don't get excited. Look, I mean, there's really limited times to be excited, maybe about the Jaguars over the past decades. Right now is a fun moment to really see the different additions and players on the Jaguars, just having some positive reports come out about them. But now, as I sit here, I always look at the Jaguars from an optimistic standpoint, especially this time of year, because look, I want the Jaguars to be good because if the Jaguars are good, then it's going to make me happier. It's going to impact my life more than it probably should. And I really just run this channel on optimism, oddly enough. When the Jaguars, if it's November and December and the Jaguars aren't doing good, I don't want to make videos. I don't want to listen to anything about the Jaguars. I just kind of want to get away from it. But right now I'm in a moment where look, I'm wanting to make videos every day because I'm excited about the team. I'm excited about the year and all the different stuff going on. So I'm looking at this team and thinking, okay, I know the reasons why the Jaguars might be bad and whatnot, but I want to really focus in on the different areas where different experts and stuff like that are kind of focusing in on and really just talking about, okay, if the Jaguars can flip the script in those categories, then the Jaguars' ceiling can be pretty good when it comes to the win-loss record in 2022. So I wanted to kind of outline those for you guys. So one of the first things I want to point out is experience. And this isn't only this is experience all around. I mean, it's a brand new coaching staff. And this coaching staff has, from head coach to offensive coordinator to defensive coordinator, it's a bunch of people's it's the first time really with this team and with this unit working together. And that also goes for all the brand new additions in free agency, whether it be Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram or Brandon Sheriff or Darius. There's a bunch of new free agents that have been brought on this team. And also when we look at the first and second year players that are expected, that the Jaguars are really expecting to make impacts from. Some of these guys include Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Tyson Campbell, Walker Little, Andre Cisco, Jay Tufele, Luke Farrell, Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Luke Fortner, Chad Muma, Snoop Connor. Look, those are all those guys that I mentioned. Those are all first and second year players. And those guys together will account for over 20% of the roster. So if these guys can have a rush to maturation moment where they, all these second year guys make that big leap, you get some early impact from these first year guys, that's going to do the Jaguars wonders when it comes to just how good the Jaguars can potentially be. So that's the big thing, is this experience between brand new coaching staff, and it's also literally Press Taylor's first time as an offensive coordinator and Mike Caldwell's first time as a defensive coordinator. So obviously it's nice that Doug Peterson has some experience, but there's just a lot of new moving pieces right now. The next up is the pass rush. Now, we all know Josh Allen is a good player, potentially a great player. I mean, we saw him in his rookie year. We thought he was just going to be the best edge rusher ever. I mean, he had double-digit sacks his rookie year, which was pretty awesome. But the Jaguars drafted Trayvon Walker, who was the Jaguars viewed as the best player in the draft. They spent the number one overall pick on him. So we're in a position where it's okay, how good can Trayvon Walker be his rookie year? Now, I will say when I'm looking at training camp highlights, the dude is really powerful. I mean, him on these bull rushes, he is pushing offensive linemen back, but I don't see the pass rushing moves yet, which is kind of expected because we knew coming out that he was a little bit raw when it comes to just the position that he plays, and he's going to have to develop those moves. But if your only move is the bull rush, then it's not going to play out well, because generally You want to show your swim moves. You want to show a bunch of different stunts, all these different moves. And then when an offensive lineman is expecting one thing, that's when you push them back. So it's kind of it's not an every move kind of thing. So that's something that the Jaguars and Trayvon Walker will have to work on. And you're seeing Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker get a lot of like one-on-one work together in the offseason, like really before practice, after practice, whatever. I'm seeing a lot of video of that together, which is nice. And also, we have some more guys that are going to be in the mix. Dewan Smoot has turned out to be a pretty good player for the Jags. J2 Fele is actually having a pretty nice camp. Arden Key and Fatu Kasi, a couple guys the Jaguars just got in and free agency. And also, Devin Lloyd is actually a pretty good pass rusher. He actually had some better pass rushing moves than a lot of like defensive end, outside linebackers coming out. So I imagine he might be used on third down situations when it comes to rushing the passer. So I do think that the pass rush will be better this year, but how much better? Because if you can really affect a quarterback and if you can really be a disrupting team, that's going to directly lead to wins and losses. Next up is Trevor Lawrence. Look, I mean, really, I got Trevor Lawrence. There's a reason why I'm so obsessed with Trevor Lawrence, because I say this, all these videos, you guys are probably sick of me saying this, but Trevor Lawrence is going to determine how high and low this team is going to be. And really, the gap between what Trevor Lawrence was in 2021 and where we hope he can be in 2022, that gap is going to really determine how good the Jaguars can be next year. So hopefully this player can continue to develop and just become a really good quarterback. Next up is health, which is, it's a pretty obvious thing. But if the Jaguars can stay healthy and not have too much attrition, I mean, we saw last year the Ravens were just getting decimated with injuries. And at the end of the day, Ravens had a good team, but they missed the playoffs. So the Jaguars, roster-wise, were not as good probably as the Ravens last year, but the health is a big thing. And if the Jaguars get hit with the injury bug a lot, we're definitely not going anywhere this year. Next up is the offensive line. A lot of people are concerned about the offensive line, especially after the play from last year. And then people wonder, did the Jaguars do enough at offensive line? But it's interesting because if you compare the week one starting offensive line in 2021 versus what is probably going to be the week one starting offensive line in 2022, 80% of the line is going to be brand new starters. I mean, the only player that is going to remain is Cam Robinson at left tackle. I mean, I expect Walker Little to overtake Jawan Taylor. Brandon Sheriff is a great player when healthy. And the question marks is really, I mean, a big question mark is Luke Fortner. Like, can he, he got bull rushed by, I think it was, I forget who it was, but I'm going to post videos tomorrow, but it was at training camp today. He got bull rushed a good bit. And hopefully he can play good and, play good early on because, he's a center and that's a big piece. So the offensive line, how good that unit plays. I mean, we saw an awful unit last year, so hopefully that improves a good amount this year. The next one is tight end. Now, it seems like ever since I've been making this channel, tight end has always been a need. And I'm always like, okay, tight end's bad this year, but we'll address it next year. Then the next year comes, we'll address it next year. We'll address it next year. Then here we are in 2022, and we still don't really have this piece. And the Jaguars are not set in this unit at all. I mean, when you look at the top three tight ends between Chris Manhertz, Evan Ingram, and Dan Arnold, all of them are set to be free agents next year. So it's far from being a solidified unit for the Jaguars. And I was looking through it and really finding an elite tight end is harder than finding an elite quarterback. And sometimes these players, they're not obvious picks. I mean, Kyle Pitts was an obvious one. He was the first non-quarterback to get drafted in the 2021 NFL draft, but Rob Gronkowski was a mid-round pick. Travis Kelce was a mid-round pick. Zach Ertz wasn't a first-round pick. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard to find that player, and I don't know. It's hard to project the Jaguars really getting that guy, but that's one thing. And tight end, it's been an up and down thing just this offseason. I mean, we hear one day Evan Ingram has an awesome day, hauls in a couple touchdowns, it's great. And then another day he's dropping easy balls that are, I think one led to an interception. That cannot happen, and drops are just so critical because when you look at the numbers, you look at last year and it looks like Laviska Shenault had a pretty good year. He put up numbers. He looked like he was very productive, but he had so many drops. It really devalued the kind of year that Shenault had in 2021. So we hope that really that that's at least a formidable unit this year where it's not an obvious like hole on the Jaguars roster. Next up is the kicking unit. Now, I'm more concerned about this now than I was a couple of weeks ago, but the Jaguars have had 3 kickers in like the last 7 or 8 days. Since training camp started, one guy was in and out, and now we're on another competition. So hopefully that competition gets shaken up because look, at the Jaguars are going to win some games this year. Say the Jaguars have 9 wins, optimistic, 9-8. I guarantee you at least 3 of those wins would come by between 1 to 3 points. So you need to hit your kicks. If you're leaving points on the board, we're not good enough to leave points on the board. You know what I mean? So we can't do that. Another thing is schedule. Now, a lot of people say, oh, the Jaguars have a really tough schedule, but really, the AFC is just tough in general. I know we play the AFC West, and AFC West is tough, but look at like the Jets. The Jets have to play the Dolphins twice, the Bills twice, the Patriots twice, and some teams have to play the NFC West. Look, the Jaguars are in a position where AFC West is tough, but we also play the NFC East, and that's not very tough. And also, we play in the AFC South, which there is no like juggernaut in there. So a lot of people throw out this schedule thing. I don't know if that's something that's really holding us back because I can't look at a schedule and say, oh, that's an easy schedule. And also, you never know. I mean, last year the Jaguars had a last place schedule. And one of those last place teams was the Bengals, who turned out to be in the Super Bowl. So it's so hard to look at it from that perspective. Now, the last bullet point I want to make, and I actually forgot to write this down, but I think that was a big point of the video, and it's kind of thinking outside the box in a way, but the Jaguars need to have guys that are like top 5 at their position. Like when the Jaguars made the run in 2017, the Jaguars at cornerback probably had 2 of the top 3 cornerbacks in the NFL with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye. The Jaguars had maybe like one of the top 3 inside linebackers with Telvin Smith. He had a tremendous year. Even like Calais Campbell had an all-pro year. He was maybe the best defensive end that year. Malik Jackson had a great year. Look, you had a bunch of players in that year that were like top 3 to 5 players at their position. The Jaguars need to start having some players step up. I mean, you look at the Super Bowl last year, Aaron Donald best at his position, Jalen Ramsey one of the best at his positions, Stafford really turned it on, Cooper Kupp was like leading the NFL in receiving yards. Like the Jaguars need to start having, because when you look at Super Bowl teams, when you look at teams that make deep playoff runs, they all have these blue chip elite players that are making Pro Bowls every year. The Jaguars, I mean, we need to start finding that. And look, there's potential. Travis Etienne could be great. Tyson Campbell could turn out to be a Pro Bowl player. But a lot of this is all projection. We're projecting a lot of this stuff. And instead of projecting, players need to go on the field and actually make it happen. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for and looking forward to. And I'm at the point where I hate projecting because as a Jaguar fan, if you are in the last 5 years, if you projected players to do good, you've probably been wrong, unfortunately. So I want these players to prove it on the field, and I want to see it before my eyes, and I will be, one of the happiest people, maybe not in Jacksonville, but in Orlando and Florida. I'll be like one of the happiest people the Jaguars can turn this thing around and do some good stuff. I'm not going to sit here and count the Jaguars out of the playoffs, but I listed a bunch of things. Look, if some of these things like, if the Jaguars can rush to maturity with the experience, or Trayvon Walker can develop those pass rushing moves and be a top edge rusher to pair with Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence becomes great, we stay healthy, look, good things can happen. You know what I mean? It's just, what will the Jags do? So, guys, we're a couple days out of the Hall of Fame game. Can't wait. I'll be live streaming that one, so definitely stay tuned with the channel. And if you're not subscribed already, subscribe. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Go Jags.
Okay, Jacksonville Jaguars, too much for your crew to handle. Keep it lit, and this is the #1 YouTube channel by UCF Jaguar. Yeah, we about to blast off. If you've been a fan, then this is the dopest platform. Yeah, never hold back. Gotta represent for the teal and black.